9 inches to locate. So let's say this really was going to be the same distance as here. I want you to notice something, that as this comes down, if this were a solid frame, you'll notice it wants to go forward. See, like if it goes where it wishes to go. So it's on these lines here, and if it comes around like this, observe from the side. See, if you were behind me,
Okay.
observe what it wants to do. Okay? So now you have a couple of other ideas. You can say, well, what if we did it sort of bent it part way? Like let's say that we're going to leave a curve here, okay, a little bit. So he's holding it the same place. This time I'm doing the same thing. But notice how now it's landing closer to a straight line here. You follow that? Okay. So if you grasp that, you can see either way, it's rounding forward. Okay, and that will have an impact, a little impact on the angle back here. Okay, so
It's kind of like a smile a little bit.
exactly, it'll either be a smile this way or this way. Agree?
And on the back of the boat's going to be a smile going this way.
It'll always, so the back of the boat, the top of the frame's always moving forward, is another way we could say it. Now let's go to the bow. Let's go to the bow, because you'll see it's the opposite. So the bow, like if we were, this one here, look at, this is in, you tell me, what did I do? Because you can see for yourself, if you look here, I did it, I messed with it, didn't I? Okay, it's not parallel to here, is it? So
It's
what did I
wider
do?
down
Yeah,
here.
see, I allowed it to be here, and then a similar distance here. But either way, it did this, didn't it? Okay, so this is the Hal Chase. You have to understand, there's schools of thought, and or of technique, and my one teacher, John Linderman, who was really one of the great of the Bay Area, one of the best boat builders. He did not usually do this. He twisted. Because they're in a boatyard where they're thinking a lot about bulkheads and everything plumb. You see, and I built boats that way. So there, what we do, we have basically we make a wrench out of wood, pops over the piece of wood, and we're twisting it as we're bending it. So we're forcing it to over twist and then relax as it comes down. But my observation over many years is that often leads to broken frames later. Or see, there's stresses in the frame that when it's new, you wouldn't know that. You might not know it for 5 years, but it'd be like anything that over time you would discover there was a problem. And so this other style that I'm showing you now is this is with Hal Chase and that school, where a lot of it was because of material. So if we go down to the dock, we would see the Bush Island boat right now is very accessible, and we were cutting eucalyptus. Eucalyptus is much stiffer than oak. Therefore, when you have so-called canoe frames, so canoe frame, this one is not a canoe frame. So this one is 1 inch by 1 1/4. A canoe frame would be like this is 3/4, and this is 1.5 inches. Okay, so what happens then is the problem is magnified, the problem I'm talking about. So the more square the frame, the more you could twist it without adverse effect, in principle. So either one is okay. Like when if you get an order, you got to talk to your client and have things really clear in the agreement, because this will come up. They'll say, well, here's an Alden plan. We pull out one. So the frames are all absolutely plumb, and I can do that, or we can do this other way. And Hal Chase, who is a genius, he calculated that the strength was so much stronger if you did the canoe frame style. And what happened is there was a guy, Danny, who I have photos somewhere, and we can see it online probably. he was, we were very young. I was 21 and he was about 20 or 21, and he built a small Tancook whaler that was only at the most the length of this boat here. But a Tancook whaler is like a canoe. It's like really small, really small. He sewed cotton sails. He took, in those days people, they were into sprouts. No, I'm serious, they were really into sprouts. And so he had all of these beans that would become sprouts, and he had fishing gear, and he had it's astonishing to me. I was raised on sailboats, and I thought, God, this guy, he's not gonna, let's see how far he gets. So he leaves Bolinas, and he sails all the way to the East Coast, astonishingly. And he writes, he's a fantastic person. He just was diligent and solo in this little boat, and he's fishing, and he's writing his notes and everything.
Did you go through the Panama Canal?
No,
Went north?
because he didn't need to, because he left, he went to the East Coast. See, so he left, he went around South Africa. So what he did, he went from here, and he went west. So he went, you see? So he was in Bolinas. He was in Bolinas, and he went from Bolinas to Australia first. On the way, he stopped in French Polynesia and different places.
Now, what kind of boat was? I mean,
Oh, you gotta
tell us
see
a
it.
little bit more about the design. I mean,
Well, the design, by the way, the reason the design is important to us is because we have the Bush Island boat, which is from the same family of boats. And what they are whale boats that have turned into fantastic sailboats. They were all from the lineage of the whalers who were in the East Coast. See, these boats are from, a lot of times when I'm talking about boats, the design is from the East Coast. But I'm talking boats that are built on the West Coast.
With East Coast design.
Yeah. And so in the case of the whalers, you have as you all know, from the East Coast, either you were raised there or you've been there. It's an amazing, amazing place because of the currents. The currents coming and warming the northern part. You know, our current on this side is a Japan current coming down, and luckily it's warm enough that but it's also, you wouldn't just jump into it and go swimming. It's really different, huh? But on the East Coast, as you well know, it could become like semi-tropical at points. You may be in Maine, and it's like suddenly just really warm, huh? You guys have been there, so you know. And so it's a very different place. And so, not surprisingly, there were a lot of whales going up there, and there were a lot of whalers. And of course, at one point there was a lot. The cod schools of cod were so thick that it was very hard sometimes to sail through them. That's how many. I mean, people say that. I don't know if that's literally true, but it's apparently was really astounding, shocking how many fish and how much wildlife there was. A lot of it because of the sea and its currents, you see. So anyway, I'm going to show you. I'll bring it out.
So Bob, the two styles of frame design, one is squarish with more twist, and the other is flatter.
Yeah, another way to say that's really easy to understand, like how Chase said it, there's the basket style. So basket style, you have this material and you wrap it. You don't try to twist it because it's going to just kind of fall into place. But since it's not a basket, it's a boat, in the middle, it must be plumb somewhere, because there's a transition where the frame must be plumb with no twist, agreed, from either direction. What I was trying to show you up here was that Lawrence says, asking a question. In other words, I'll finish this, and then I'll get the plan.
Yeah, sure.
But see, what if I did this? I took this to show you, and I put this here, and you can see, I'll put it next to this one, okay? You can see that if I come down here, look at what it wants to do. See, it wants to go back.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. So from Hal Chase's point of view,
So you don't need.
like here's the worst that will happen. Here's the worst that will happen. You guys go on that side because there's more room. And look at the little,
You can
sliver.
see
Like if you go to that side, you can look either side, but this is a bulkhead. It's plumb, but I put a spacer. Now there'll be a more exaggerated one if we go to, maybe you can see one here, that, yeah, you can see there's a heavier, see therefore because of the bend, there's a heavier space in
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
See it on
You see?
Lawrence's phone.
And probably,
Yes.
you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's say you are gonna put in a bulkhead, then yes, you will have to put a little spacer in, there's no big deal. Now, this is a watertight bulkhead here, and even there, if we were to open this lid, this maybe is in more extreme, perhaps this will be even a better demonstration. Yeah, much better demonstration. Look how much it needed. Look how much of a spacer it needed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? But notice how beautiful these frames are, and these frames are hardly what I would call canoe frames. See, they're square, look.
Yeah.
But they still want to go in that direction. See, any frame wants to go in that direction unless you torque it. You
So
follow
the
me? So you see how
spacer
they're
is-
leaning- So just think they're leaning towards the center. The ones after leaning forward. This is what the boat, right side up, obviously. See?
Would that be structurally, I mean, because they lean towards the center from both sides, would that structurally make it stronger?
Well, it's from Hell's point of view, it was about when, see, what happened is there used to be mostly sound frames on almost all boats, and except very small boats like fishing boats. Nathaniel Hershoff, you guys have heard of, right? So he was called the Wizard. He said,
Bristol.
of Bristol. So he said, well, that was his day job. He was still the Wizard at night. Well, I mean, he was like really talented beyond belief, you know what I mean? So he invented the modern wood screw that we use. He invented that. You know, there's so many things he invented. The guy was like, you know, and but the point is that he and then when El Francis came into the picture, basically their analysis was most of the sound frame boats were being built with wood from a later time, later than when the original eastern seaboard had incredible huge oak trees, okay? And what that meant is that you had a lot of sapwood. You had a lot of wood, and you had wood that was not as fine. So what that meant is that you can read about this. They said, you know, these boats, the sawn frame boats, they have several problems. One of them is they have often sapwood, often it's inferior quality compared to what they used to have. And the second point is that the vent frames, which they recommended, would give you a lighter boat, and as you steam vent them, you would be pasteurizing them. You would be killing any fungus and any bugs that could be in the wood finito, right, for the time being anyway. And so you would have like this perfect piece of wood, a lighter boat, and you would lose less space because the sawn frame is coming deeper into the boat, right? And but unfortunately, before we get to the 10-cook whaler, or actually we're going to get to 10-cook whaler first, but don't let me forget, because Jason inadvertently brought up a really very interesting question that has nothing to do with these boats, but which does have to do with American dominance with regard to maritime vessels. So when I finish, just remind me, okay? It will just take me a couple minutes to explain it to you. So I'm going to get a plan of the 10-cook whaler.